Hi, this is Malice, and welcome back to the niw&malice channel. Today we're actually going to be making some pom-pom trim. The first thing you'll need is to actually have a thing to put said trim on, and for me that was a dress. I really love this fabric because it reminds me of a 1960s clown, but like not the scary kind, like the kind that has a pointy hat with those giant pom-poms going on the front of its outfit. I had a clown plushie when I was a kid with those colors, and I guess that's where the association comes from. If you're wondering, hey Malice, why does your fabric look like a goddamn raisinette? First of all, rude, and second of all, I actually spilled pickle juice on my iron, and now whenever I turn it on, it smells like a sandwich. Which, I mean, hey, I like sandwiches. It's not like a bad thing in and of itself, but the iron started leaving burned gunk on the clothes I was trying to iron, which could not be tolerated. I decided to cheat a bit on the neckline. The pattern called for a facing, which, okay, I feel like I say this in every video about zippers or buttons, but genuinely, it's not that I hate facings hate me. So I used the bias tape trick instead. So you pin the bias tape around the neckline and sew along the fold closest to that edge. Then you fold the tape towards the inside and press it so that that edge is nice and crisp, and then sew again along the inner edge of the tape. You're supposed to use a single fold bias tape, but I already had this double fold bias tape on hand, so I decided to use it instead, and it worked just fine, though it was a bit thick. As you can see, it's definitely not perfect, but it was my first time doing this method, so I think it's fine to have some room for improvement. But anyway, you didn't come here to learn how to bias spine necklines. You came here probably to figure out why someone would want to make from scratch pom-pom trim when there's actually literally hundreds of varieties available online. And I don't have a great answer for you, except that when I went looking for something that was exactly the colors of the fabric print I had, there was literally nothing. And once I got it in my head to have matching pom-pom trim, I was going to make it happen, even if I had to do it myself. So what follows is not the work of some pom-pom trim master sharing her knowledge, but more a stubborn crafter hell-bent on making her vision come to pass. So enjoy that. So first you need to pre-measure how much of this tape you'll need to go all the way around wherever you're putting the pom-pom trim on. So for me, it's the bottom of my dress. So I went around and measured how long the bottom edge of my dress was, and it came out to this much. So then I made marks on the tape. For me, it was about 3 inches apart, but for you, it could be closer or further away. It just depends on what kind of look you're going for. So I'm going to start at one end of my ribbon tape, and I already put some thread on my needle. Now you don't want to make it too long. Definitely don't measure out enough thread to go all the way around it, because it's going to be a lot safer if you do it in smaller sections. So if something does go wrong, the whole thing won't come undone. So I'm going to start off at one end and just go ahead and put the thread in how you normally would if you were sewing. Now, since I'm going to put my pom-pom here, I'm going to go ahead and go through it a few more times like this, and this is going to make it a lot more stable. Let's just kind of put a few loops here. It's kind of hard to see because it's white thread on white ribbon, but you can see that I've kind of made a harder section here. And this is just so that in case your pom-pom catches on anything, it doesn't pull the thread too much and gather up the bottom of your skirt. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to start with my first pom-pom. So I go ahead and put my needle through the thickest part at the center of the pom-pom. Okay, go ahead and pull the thread through. And bring it right up against the bottom of the thread tape. Now I know most pom-pom trim, the pom-pom stains a little bit, but that's really hard to do unless you have a machine for making it. I couldn't figure out how to do it, at least. And then you have your thread coming out the bottom of your pom-pom. So now just go ahead and put the needle through, not in exactly the same spot, but still at the center. And it should come out at the top around the same spot. So you can see here where my thread came out the first time, and then here is where it's coming out this time. So go ahead and pull it. And you can see that there's kind of like a little loop here, and this is gonna be what keeps the pom-pom from falling off. So you can pull it, but don't pull it too tight. So now you have this thread coming out the top. So take your needle and put it in the needle tape at pretty much where you left off. So you're kind of creating a loop. So you're taking your needle, putting it in the needle tape, the ribbon tape. Take your needle, put it in the ribbon tape, going through the pom-pom, and then back through the pom-pom this way, and then you leave off pretty much where you started off in the ribbon tape. So now we need to go ahead and bring this thread all the way to 3 inches away, or however long yours is. And I just did this by kind of putting my needle in and then just kind of like doing a running stitch all the way down. Now the important thing with this is do not pull it too tight, because as you can see, it's just going to gather up the tape like this, and that's not what we want. Keep it as flat as possible.
Editing Malice here. So despite what I said, I definitely recommend running the thread through the pom-pom more than once. It definitely goes a long way in making the trim more secure.
Alright, so now we've ended up at the 3-inch mark, and it's time to add our second pom-pom. So I'm sure you're wondering, how is it that we're going to keep this part from bunching up in case the pom-pom gets pulled or it gets snagged on something? So this is where that kind of like looping stitch goes in. So I came out the bottom. Now I'm just going to go ahead and make another loop. So it's coming out the bottom, and I'm going in through the top. And this is going to make it really hard for the thread to pull. Alright, so I think I have enough thread here to make it sturdy. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the next pom-pom. So I'll take my green pom-pom and do exactly the same thing I did before. So I'm coming out the bottom of the ribbon tape, going through the center of the pom-pom, where I feel like it's the sturdiest, pulling the thread through, adding it to the bottom of my tape, with just a little bit of space here so it can dangle. And now taking my thread and going back through the center of the pom-pom and coming out at the top. And you can see there's a loop here, so I'm going to pull it just until it disappears inside, but not anymore. Alright, now I have my thread coming out the top of the pom-pom. I'm just going to go ahead and add it in. So you can see if I pull the pom-pom now, you can see that it makes this thread kind of a little bit longer, but it doesn't bunch up the ribbon tape because I went and I did those loops. So that's not actually what we want, so I'll go ahead and pull it tighter. So now I have my 2 pom-poms on, like this. And they can still dangle a little bit. Okay. So now all that's left is to keep adding pom-poms until you get to the end of your thread. Alright, so now that my thread is almost finished, I can go ahead and knot it off. Alright, and I have my first 4 pom-poms. So all you have to do next is cut off the same amount of thread you did before and just keep going on down the line. Alright, so I finished sewing all my pom-poms on. They're about 3 inches apart. My technique definitely got better as I went along. Alright. So now it's time to sew the pom-pom trim onto the end of my dress. My brand new dress to do some errands around Seoul that we've been putting off until we were fully vaccinated. We walked. A lot. The pom-pom trim held up pretty well, despite snagging on the bag I was carrying, so I can actually pretty confidently endorse this rather haphazard method for trim that I came up with here. If you try making some pom-pom trim with your own incredibly specific colors, let us know in the comments below. Until next time, bye!